Hey, have you guys ever stopped and looked at this code before on here? I was like, whoa, something about Jesse Barnum, AWS demo 2018, some scripts. I think it's at a starting point, right? If you back up, I was always like, wow, look at this code. So we hired the guys that were doing this, and then they were like, well, I said I want FileMaker code in there, and they're like, oh yeah. So if you actually look at this, our starting point app, and this so they insert our code in. That's pretty cool. Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where we create great FileMaker training for you. And we have an action-packed, exciting day today, especially if you're a beginning person. That being said, we have a lot of advanced people here, so I'm going to treat today as kind of an open Q&A day as much as anything else. I know there's open questions and answers people have. We will cover the material briefly. I want to simply point out that if you go to fmtraining.tv, not .com, but .tv, you will get this website here. You press the live tab right here. You can see the upcoming schedule. Today is a beginning kind of day. Tomorrow is more of a free sample day. And then Monday is another kind of beginning day, although I'm kind of wondering maybe Nick should have been involved with that a little bit. Kind of a beginner conversation about finds and indexing, and then we start kind of a more intermediate session, maybe advanced for some of you. And it's all about building your own theme in the FileMaker platform. And we got day 1, 2, and 3 with Nick, and then there's probably some stuff over here on the other side that I can't see. So real quick, so I'm over here looking at that, but that's once again, that's all of you talking to me on the broadcast. Thank you very much. And so I want to point out that this broadcast is sponsored by fmtraining.tv, where we produce this content every day, Monday through Friday. And if you want to help support the channel, we really appreciate you by buying one of our FileMaker bundles here, either our complete bundle or our video only training bundle. And if you would like a deal, just email us at support@RC Consulting. We really appreciate it when you help us out. So real quick, so today's conversation is more of a beginning conversation. And what I want to do is I want to once again open Q&A. So I can see YouTube, Discord, Twitch. So we're broadcasting in high definition to all three of these. Obviously, we're talking about the FileMaker platform. One of the challenges that I am having, and I'm asking all of you about this, and if you have thoughts about it, send it to support@RC Consulting, because I haven't really found a good answer yet. And that is that we are generating a lot of basic content, intermediate, and advanced content. And so if I get Bunny in here and I get Trixie in here, I guess it's Trixie. Yeah, Trixie in here. Then we have some beginners, and so some of the conversation like today is very beginner oriented. But I want to make sure that that we don't run off the intermediate advanced people, like they're all like, I'm out of here, it's boring. And so how do we manage the beginning content and the intermediate content and advanced content? Claris has tried to deal with this as well, because they've tried to create almost 2 tracks of people that come to their website, like either it's their advanced people or their beginning people, right? And maybe our situation is that simple, but in an ideal world, I'd have a couple more video people, and we would have a beginner track that would run every day at a certain time, and then an advanced track that would run a couple hours later. So we do 2 broadcasts a day. But that's just me being excessively greedy. I always try to do better. You know, whatever we do, I try to do it better the next time. More professional, more advanced, more explosions, more entertainment, more screaming and shouting and music, you understand. So anytime that I run into a wall, the other one is, as TK pointed out, TK55678, thank you very much. You're a great moderator helping us out. Is that the time difference for the people in Europe and in Australia and other places just miserable. It's like middle of the night and stuff. So how do we deal with that, right? And what would be a better time slot, and how would we deal with that? So I really am open to suggestions. That last one might be harder, but the beginning and beginning track and advanced track, coming up with some sort of strategy on that, I think that's a solvable problem. So that's just my opinion. One of the things that's come up is that Claris does have some documentation and on their website, and they talk about modes here a little bit, but the question is, what are modes? Things like that. Modes. So what are modes in the FileMaker platform? So in the FileMaker platform, it's whining to me about oh, I don't want to do this right now. Every time I run the update, it crashes. So this is 19. This is 19. I'm going to minimize this right now. This is 19.1 on this case. If I create a brand new FileMaker file, and I'm just going to say create a blank file, I'm going to create it. I'm going to create it on my Mac, not on the cloud. I'm going to call it test. Once again, FileMaker will auto-create some set of fields here. You can customize these fields by changing a preference file if you're a more advanced developer. But at the end of the day, you're creating records over here. It creates a table. It creates a set of fields for you. You can say OK. If I go into actually fields and I just say name in here, so we have a field in here we can play with, I say OK. Here it is. So when we're in a mode, and I can, yeah, you can't really see this in Discord too well. But basically, the modes are right here. If you say view, browse mode, find mode, layout mode, preview mode. So I'm going to cover the basics here real quick for those of you. So browse mode is, I like to call it my user mode. It's when the users are doing usery type things, right? It's not real terminology, but when the users are using, right? That's browse mode. So it's you're manipulating data, you're editing data. That's the user mode, okay? Layout mode is the other really big mode. And the layout mode is where you're structuring or building the layout, right? It's like the builder application. So if I go to, whoops, I hit the wrong one. If I go to layout mode, then what you're going to see if I move myself over, make myself smaller, more slicery. Slicery, new word. Let's write that down. So you've got your left pane, your right pane, right? So we have pane, left pane, right pane, and then within the pane are panels, right? And so this is the new workspace that you start to see from the FileMaker platform, where they're putting the tools left and right and across the top. They took this from Xcode. The engineers there were very clear that they took it from Xcode. They initially took it for the script workspace, right? So the script workspace is where you're writing the actual code. If you want to write code in FileMaker, it's where you actually write it. The script workspace, we used to call the script maker. The script workspace is right here. If I create a new script, then you have once again, a left pane, a right pane, and a pane across the top. And so as we start to have with FileMaker 19, one of the big things with FileMaker 19 is the add-on section right here. Not really going to talk about that. But the mode we're in is this layout design mode. Now, it's important to understand that people say, well, what about preview mode? Preview mode used to be this really important mode. It's right here. And it previews how the document will look if it is output. And that is output. Initially, in the old days, it was just output to printer, period. There was no PDF option. And then PDFs came along and you could output to PDFs. And so it's how you're going to output to a PDF or to a label or to paper, something like that. The idea is that you can preview what it will look like. Now the preview mode has largely been, I don't want to say the word deprecated, but what's important to understand about preview mode is that it's not really super important anymore. If I go to the Claris International, let's say learning, onboarding, my learning, that's all Claris, learning. Let me try this one right here. See if that works, gives me back to where I want to be here. If this is the modes. Yeah, there's his modes right here. So it says when you work with data in FileMaker, you're going to be in browse mode, find mode, later preview mode. So you will be in one of these 4 modes. I guess I should say that. There are 4 modes. You will be in one of them at all times, right? A window can be in a layout mode. You can have multiple windows open at the same time. One window can be in layout mode while the other window is in browse mode or in find mode. So the modes are specific to a window and you can mix them together at the same time. Okay, important to understand. The layout mode is design. You're building the application. That doesn't exist on FileMaker Go. And if they ever come up with an Android client, it won't exist there either. Okay. And then preview mode has been deprecated because most people don't really need it anymore. It used to be super important because you couldn't really even see a sub-summary on a report without preview mode. Now when you're in browse mode, you can kind of see summarized data. You can see totals and things like that. And so the preview mode is less critical than it used to be. So if you look down here, it says preview mode is not available on Go or WebDirect. If preview mode was so important, it would be in WebDirect. It'd be in both these. It's not. Now layout mode is design builder mode. We don't build on a browser. We don't build in Go and or Android at some point. So as a result, these two modes don't exist on those clients. So the only place that you'll get all the modes is in FileMaker Pro, Mac, or Windows, right? So it's important to understand, I guess, for the basic users, that most basic users start off with Pros, that you can have multiple windows, as you can see right here. The windows can be in different modes. The other thing that's important to understand is that the controls across the top are contextual to the mode you're in. And so that means that if you're in browse mode, and like, let me just open up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up a sample file here to give us a little bit of data. I'm gonna look for a copy of, probably with starting point. Here's a starting point right here. It'll probably have some data in it. If I go to contacts, it has 8,300 records in it, so I'm going to hide the other stuff. So if I'm in browse mode right here, as I'm flipping through records, this is flipping records for me. If I go to layout mode, which is Command or Control L, it's keyboard shortcut. So as a developer, as a beginning person, Trixie, you're going to, and Bunny, you people will learn that you're going to program. So my right hand is my main. I'm right-handed, so this is my right hand. I'll make it myself a little bigger here. Right-handed. And so that's running my mouse. My left hand is running around doing keyboard shortcuts. My left hand knows how to do scripts, field definitions, layout mode, browse mode, all the kind of common things you run into. So if I want to switch to layout mode, I can go here, or I can hit Command or Control L on the keyboard, and it drops us into that mode. So what's important now is that this menu across the top is contextual. So if I go New, Window, pop a new window, and I say, let's go back to browse mode. So across the top, we can flip records here. Notice that if I flip over here, I have the ability to flip layouts. Now, one of you the other day, one of you did not know that this was a possibility, that Claire's had removed this. But you can while in this mode, I can right click with in my case, my middle finger, and I'm going to say Customize Toolbar. And this item up here at the top is not, when you normally get FileMaker freshly installed, it looks like this. The only thing I do to customize it is I drag up here, this right here. This is kind of a historical behavior. What this allows you to do is to rapidly, there's 257 layouts in this copy of starting point. I can rapidly flip through layouts. So as I grab this control, I'm flipping layouts, not records. If I'm in preview mode, say I'm in browse mode, but I go to preview mode, then as I flip the pages here, these are, flip the records here, these are pages, right? And so it could be 5 pages or 20 pages or 5,000 pages. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go back to browse mode. Now notice that when I'm browse mode, navigating is like this big long list. So if you're kind of like trying to flip through layouts and inspect, like you're looking for pixel shift, like if I go over here and I go mouse, I go to contacts, and I go to layout mode, and what I'm doing is from layout to layout, I'm looking sure that this word account here doesn't move, or this building right here, these don't move. If they move between layouts, it's called pixel shift. It causes your users to go slightly insane. But if I start to flip this, if you focus right here, I flip, didn't, okay, yeah, that one moved right there. You see that was actually a break. There's a difference in the layout width right here, so maybe that is a problem or maybe not. So as you're flipping through here, it allows you to flip the layouts quickly and review things much faster than using this control over here, right? When I go to layout mode now, the panels make the window go off the screen on my second monitor. It's very annoying. Doesn't understand the monitor boundaries. Yeah, so I only have one monitor here that's being mirrored, and so I can't really demonstrate that. But if you were in, say you're in browse mode right now, on this screen, or actually on this layout right here, and say I'm using the whole window, and then I go to layout mode, what it's going to do, it's going to show us the left and right panes, and then it's going to smash this area down the middle right here. So NetLobster says when I go to layout mode, the panels make the window go off the screen onto my second monitor. So your computer will resize and chop it down to fit. And if you don't like it, you turn that on, and you can turn the panes on and off right here. But if you have a second monitor, it'll allow you to stretch onto the second monitor, right? So that's one of those things you have to kind of get used to. Every time they change this stuff, like starting in FileMaker 14 or something, they add the script workspace. And over the next 2 or 3 releases of script workspace, this got changed a lot. A lot of things in here got changed to make them better, kind of how you kind of navigate down through there and how you can use a keyboard. Because a lot of people really like to use keyboard shortcuts with their hands to code, right? When you're doing a lot of coding, it's better just to be able to do, manipulate things without the mouse, right? I don't code often enough to use it quite that way. But if you're seriously coding like TK, some of you, maybe Jake or someone, they definitely run into, and they learn all the keyboard shortcuts to be able to do that. So if you come over here, like if I come down, let me back out over here. So I come down, I hit a space bar, then you're into this calculation, but you're kind of at a shorthand for this function right here, right? And if I hit return, it saves it. If I hit space, it edits it, return saves it. What if I hit command? Nope, that doesn't do anything. What about option? So what if you hit command return, right? That adds a return. If I hit delete, right? And so there's all these little keyboard shortcuts that you learn. I tend to learn them, and then Claire's changes them, and it tends to screw me up. So you're always learning new stuff. You like to be able to script without the mouse. Okay, Miss Lobster. So what are your so on Discord right here, for those of you watching this, they can hear me pretty much in real time. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, it's a little slower. So if I want to jump, I'm on line 17, okay, and I want to jump in here. I'm going to hit space. I'm in here. Now, how do I jump to the function if I want to jump without pressing that right there? How would I get to that? What button am I going to press, right? Am I going to press shift return? Nope. Space goes into edit. How do I? Okay, that created a line. So it's a lot of times it's just hunting down and trying to figure this out, right? Or arrow keys. If I go in there, I hit that. Nope, that. Space, tab, space. All right, here we go. Tab, space. Okay, so that makes me edit it. Hang on. So if I'm just on it, like I'm on line 17, and then I hit tab, space. Hey, there we go. So Net Lobster added something new. So that is how you jump in there. Now, if you're already editing it, so you hit space, and you're editing it, and you hit tab, space. It does it either way. Great tip. Thank you, Net Lobster. So that's why I was at. It was, Scott did that. Oh, I'm sorry. Scott, everyone, sorry, my bad. Net Lobster, you know nothing. Nothing. Disregard. Eat the lobster. The lobster is for food. So yeah, my bad. But you get the idea that that you learn the keyboard shortcuts, and if you do it enough, and they don't change it, right? And that was the problem, because they changed those things 3 or 4 times from the release of 14 or whatever it was, 12, 13, 14, wherever they had the script workspace. So yeah, I have lobster has a tiny brain and little eyes that are on the end of the thingies up there, and the little. Yeah, very cool. So I need a stuffed lobster in here. All right, so. Welcome to the world of modes, right? So basics of keyboard shortcuts. In fact, Klaus Levent sent me a keyboard shortcut checklist one day, and I think that's probably useful. We should probably look at that sometime for fun. If I can find it, I will get it out for you. Someone did send me a sample file for Friday already. If you have any sample files for Friday, something new that you've seen, feel free to let us know that. So tab space works with other functions with multiple choices as well. So if I have show custom dialog, I hit tab space, it brings it up. If I hit tab space, tab. So tab is like tabbing me through it, which is great. Perfect. And then if I hit escape, that drops us out one. So tab space is good. I like that. Very good. Awesome. So we all learn something new. I always like it when I learn something new. I feel like you should be sitting here and I should be watching you. There's a link here. Keyboard shortcuts in OS X. That's FileMaker 15. Okay. Well, I would preferably get one. Shift enter, yeah. So that's a good one too. So let's talk about this. So a lot of times as you're putting comments in, you want to put a lot of white space in here. It visually helps break things up. Whenever you folks see long lines like this, that's the Richard doing that. No one else does that at RCC, but I like it because then it's easy for me to see, like, I'm not even focusing on the code. I'm just looking at the geometric pattern of the screen, right? And I see kind of this open space here, and I see colors, of course, but then I see line. I know that between the lines are breaks in functionality, not just spaces, but the line, right? And so anytime you see these, that Richard has been involved with that, right? And when you see stuff like this, where they comment it and it's not pushed out, that's another developer, right? Like you can tell where I've been, or if it's overly verbose, like in this piece of code, we're going to do this, and it really should do this, but it actually does this. I actually will write it that way. And I find that helps me when I come back a year or two later. What the hell did I do, right? So anyway, yeah, TK, what did TK say? TK, tab space. Oh, yeah. So let me go back to this. So the problem I was running into is that I would always be like, oh, I want to put a return key and put some spaces in. But then when you get to the top line, how the hell do you do that? And that's where it's useful. So it's shift return, and that forces the line you're on, it grabs it and ejects it down as opposed to ejecting the one right before it. So shift return is how you do that. Very useful as well. So keyboard shortcuts, comments, conversations. So once again, back to modes. So modes, FileMaker, you'll always be in a mode. Browse mode, layout mode are the two big ones. Find mode is also really big, but it's not an area you really hang out in a long time. Most time as you're doing find mode, you're doing a search for something. A lot of people, a lot of you here probably, some of you, as you do a find, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Don't save. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. And so here we are in FileMaker, and I'm going to close that, and that's fine for now. And so say I want to, I'm going to zoom in on Sandra here. Say I want to find everyone who's in, I guess, New England, right? And so what I would do is I would do find mode, right? Find mode. And I would type in here what I'm looking for, Texas, for example. So I type Texas TX, hit return. And of course, conversations about lean design and performance and what you would do with indexing, totally different conversation. That's just the find. What people don't realize a lot of times is that there's a very useful shortcut. A couple things you can do. One is that you can do a refind, which brings back your last find request. So Command or Control R. If you go here, you'll see it right here. Modify last find or refind. Right? Refind. And that's what the R is for. So you can do that. It reproduces your last find. Some of you didn't know this, I guarantee, because I ran into some of my staff the other day who didn't know that, right? When you're in find mode, well, let me cover multiple find requests. So when you're in mode, another thing that beginning people, like if you're tricksy, say you wanted to find everyone who was in Texas and California. So you do find mode, enter find mode, find, or I can just click that. Same as hitting Command or Control F. I could put Texas, but then how would you add California to? You could actually say new request right here. So when you're in find mode, it's not new record and delete record. It's a request. So I can add another request like, which one did I just do? I just did Texas, so I will do California. So that gives us all the Texas and California ones. Makes sense? Pretty straightforward. Once again, we always talked about the status toolbar at the top. And it's basically contextual into the mode that you're in. Preview mode, remember flipping changes pages. Layout mode, it changes the layout you're on. Records is here. If you're in find mode, it's a record request, right? And so, for example, when I do a search in, you folks will enjoy this one. I'm going to open this up. When I do a request to send out our newsletter, you get the email once a week or maybe twice a week, depending on the situation. Where we send a newsletter out, my find request is 16 items in the request. It's important to understand that when you do a find request, FileMaker is going to perform those request items in the order that you put them in and then operate against them as it goes down. Basically what happens is people create multiple find requests, as long as it's like California and Texas. But what gets interesting is that when you start to omit items, it's very important. So FM, I'm looking for my FM starting point again. I lost it. Am I even the right thing here? Oh, there it is right there. So if you're in contacts and you say, say for example that I say find California, right? And I can go ahead and zoom in one level here. So we're in California, zooming for California. But then I really want to, at that point, a new record, new request. But then I don't want anyone from California who has a first name, their first name is S. Trust me, you'll come up with reasons for things like this. You could say omit. So the first command is find everything that's California. Then the commands execute sequentially. The next one is now omit the S's. And then the next one could be, and then after that, find the Texases, right? Now what's interesting about this is that this is order of operation specific. For those of you who understand, remember algebra, you're doing math and you have little parentheses and brackets. You do everything in the parentheses and the brackets first, and then you do your multiplication, division, next, and then if there's any addition or subtraction along the way, you do that as well. So order of operation is super, super, super important. So if you do California here, and then you do the omission of the S, and then you do the TX, what's going to happen is that if you were thinking to yourself, well, I want to find California and Texas and omit the S's, it executes this in order. It's going to do the California one first, then it's going to omit the S's, then it's going to find the Texas's, even if they have the S in them. And so it's very sensitive to order of operation. You actually have to talk verbally. Sometimes people will get these going and you don't get the results you're looking for, and you know it's wrong, but you don't know why it's wrong, because in your mind you kind of threw all these criteria at FileMaker. You have to treat FileMaker like an 8-year-old, like a child. You have to tell it, step 1, wake up. Step 2, make your bed. Step 3, clean your room. Step 4, take a bath, take a shower. Step 5, brush your teeth, right? You have to give them step-by-step instructions. It will execute it in that operation. Because if you just say, hey, get up, clean your room, take a shower, get yourself ready to go to school, right? What happens? They do all those things in different orders. Now, sometimes doing them in different orders doesn't matter, but sometimes the order of operation matters. In this specific case, it really matters because we're omitting the S's from the California. So California first, then omit the S's, and then include the Texas's, right? And you say, I noticed a blue mark on line 17. What is that? It's probably a break point in the script. If you asked what I was thinking you're asking. Probably like that. Is that what you're looking at? That blue mark right there? Is that what we're saying? That's a Y or a no? Yeah. Okay, good. So what happens when you do if you're running a FileMaker and you have the script debugger turned on, right? So this is running over here. You have to have admin access to run this. And if we run this script, so the script, save all. So what happens is it starts running. So you see it over here. Now, what I wanted to do is say there's a whole bunch of code in here, and I don't want to have to walk through all the code, right? Because we already know that the code all through in here is just great code. We've already tested. It's fantastic. So what we just do is you tell it to play down, and it will stop at the blue mark. It's a break point. It's a forced break. Does that make sense? So you could tell it to play out, but it stops right there. Pretty cool little feature. Because you can step like this button right here. If you're going to only learn one thing in the script debugger, learn this button right here, and then obviously you can edit the script here, but this button right here steps through every line of code and it doesn't skip anything, right? But if you want it to jump, say like, you know down here it's going to be good, so let's have it go to 79, right? I put it right there. I can actually put the break in here while it's in a kind of in this pause state, because that's where it's at. That's the next line it will execute. It hasn't executed it yet. It will execute it when I tell it to go to that. So it runs that. So then it jumps, right? So I can say play, and it's going to run down to this spot right here. It also shows you your last error right here if you have an error. So pretty cool. So Trixie has a question about get the term attribute, get attribute. So there's get layout object attributes. There's get container attributes. Attributes are just specifics of a container. So if you're doing like a container or an object on the layout, a container might have an image in it. It would tell you the kind of image, the size of the image, the compression of the image, JPEG, PNG, things like that. Some images will also have GPS coordinates in them, because if you're on an iPhone and you have the GPS turned on, it will put the Latin long coordinates GPS for the photo in there, or the video. So you can get the size of the image, you can get all sorts of stuff about an image. So the attributes are all the characteristics, would be another word for it. So yeah, characteristics was the word I was looking for. So metadata is a newer term. Meta. In fact, I still have people come up to me and like, oh, it's so meta. And I'm like, what? So yeah. So yeah, adjectives. Yeah, characteristics are adjectives. So yeah, that's it. So, and you don't set those. They are basically like when you bring in something into a container. Like if you bring in a signature into a container, if it's like a legit signature, it will have its little information about when it was signed and date and time and all that kind of stuff, so it's official, as opposed to someone who takes a picture of a signature or someone who copy and pastes a signature, right? Then FileMaker will notate from the attribute that it's not a legit signature, right? Kind of cool. Yeah, that's a really great question, Bunny. when you're over here and you're writing this code over here, this is proprietary to the FileMaker platform. Okay, it's FileMaker own language. I think FileMaker, some people call it. If you know BASIC, you know anything, you can write this stuff over here. It's pretty obvious in terms of what it does. It's very verbose. But yeah, this is proprietary code in here that won't execute anywhere else, right? So I think some guys, what do they call it? FileMaker program. I think some of the people in the developers in the business really wanted to call it something so they felt like it was official. But it's not really like JavaScript, JS or C# or something like that. Browse mode, do you know what browse mode is? Do you know what layout mode is? Probably you know those two. Do you know what preview mode is? Do you know what find mode is? Today is very basic, right? We've covered some subtle things in them, but at the end of the day, do you know what they're for and why they are what they are, right? Preview is to simulate. That's a wild guess. Yeah, so preview mode is it's a preview. It's only on FileMaker Pro, Mac, or Windows. And if you go view preview right here, it's going to show you what it'll look like if you output it right now. Now the machine is set to output 8.5 by 11. If you're in Europe, I guess it's A4, whatever. The paper's a little different size, I guess. But 8.5 by 11, United States, that's what this is. If you're set to print on a label, then it'll be smaller on a little label. But this shows you that. It'll show you some things report-wise that you wouldn't normally in terms of like sliding and things like that. But most of the time, people don't use this too much anymore. And so preview mode doesn't work on Go and it doesn't work on WebDirect. So if it was so important, it should be on Go and WebDirect, but it's really just not that super used. One of those things in when you're building a layout and you start sliding objects around, like sliding up, like you can have something that's like a big field and then you put a little bit of text so you have it get smaller and that things slide up next to it so it's not so junky looking. Browse mode won't always show you that. Preview mode will show you that, right? So it's kind of neat. So it's this idea of sliding. If you're in layout mode and you'd have to have some sort of layout item where, like you can actually have it so, like you could have a, like this, if I can get that to, no, it's going to be difficult. Yeah, there we go. So say you have a body like this and say you have like, say like this is a bunch of text in here. You can actually have it giant like that. But then you can have this area collapse and get smaller, which is really great. You can have it collapse and get smaller and resize from record to record, right? Really cool. You can't see that in browse mode. You could only see that if you output it to paper, you output it to PDF, or you look at it in preview mode, right? So there you go. So that's a good one there. In fact, we could try that just for fun. I got to remember, I don't do it that often, so you have to kind of sit here and monkey with it. So say you have some data in here, right? So you get some data in here, blah, 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 blah. And so you got that, but then you have a little bit of data over here, and then you have one line there, and then you have, say, a bunch of data over here again, right? So then if we go to preview mode right now, each one is of uniform size. And I'm wondering, I go to browse. Must have not fit on the layout. So if I go to preview, you see 1, 2, this one is fully large. I guess the last one would not have fit on the layout. So then what you have to do is you have to click on this. I'm going to hide myself. And you have to go over here and you say sliding up based upon the object above and also enclose. It's kind of hard to see. I'm trying to zoom in. If you guys are on YouTube or Discord, you can see the zoom in. But also enclose the size, also resize enclosing part, right? And so if I go to browse mode, I'm going to zoom back out here. Notice you don't see any difference. If I go to preview mode, check that out. See, there's a great one there. So it realized it only needed a little bit of room here, so then it crops it down, right? But then this one needed the full space, right? So in browse mode, you can't see it. It's one of those like moments where preview mode is actually super useful, right? Well, tomorrow we're going to be, I'm going to cut you folks loose about 5 minutes early unless we have any additional questions. But the modes is pretty straightforward in the FileMaker platform. It's something that takes about 20 minutes to discuss. And once again, it's kind of obsolete, except when you want to really see how things look. And if you have a body part that you want to have different sizes of body parts, super cool to have this right here. I think this is really quite neat. in my limited opinion, right? So. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of how that goes. Very cool. Tomorrow we're going to be doing Free File Friday. Free File Friday is going to be where we're going to check out sample files. I know we got Jonathan Ray sample file, and then any of the other ones that we've had that popped up, I will dig those up. Make sure that if you have any questions, you bring them with you. If you have any sample files you want to share, you've seen something really cool in the last week, let us know about that. I'll see if I can drag Jonathan Ray or Nick in here tomorrow if they're not too busy. You never know. But we see if we can get them freed up. And so bring your questions. Once again, fmtrain.tv, where we help you create great FileMaker training. We're glad you're here. Feel free to ask questions. I know it's kind of a slow day, but that's sometimes we have basic days, and we're glad to have that. Well, when we edit this video, the pauses and waiting for questions and answers will be kind of cut out and removed. So until tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time, I'm Richard Carlton. Catch you tomorrow.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but then he makes the grab.